Hello, and thank you for listening to the College Basketball Podcast. I am Tony Morris Cousins, and with me today I have Hunter Richardson, who is a junior here at Bridgewater College. And over the next 9 to 15 minutes, we'll be giving a quick rundown of not just a college basketball action, like I mentioned, but the top 5 issues going down, number 1 and 2's falling, and who's going to be the new number 1 coming tomorrow when the rankings come out. And as well, hey, it's almost tourney time, Hunter. What do you think, man? It's that time of the year.
Oh, it's close to March.
It's been some. Oh yeah, it's been March Madness. It's been February Madness. It's been January Madness. We've had great college basketball action all season. I mean, this has been another great season for, just amazing talent. We see Michigan State with Denzel Valentine. You see we have Melo Trimble, who will get to Maryland, the Terrapins here in a second. But hey, we had, like I said, Hunter, the number 1, number 2's fallen this week. A lot of big action, man. What do you think about it?
There were some wild games that happened this weekend. Like you said, 1 and 2 going down.
Exactly.
That was big.
And also, you got to think, there's a lot of these teams that are sitting at 7, 8, and 9 who are saying, hey, they're raising their hand up saying, we want a piece of this top 5 voting in now. You got Kansas. We'll start off with the Jayhawks' victory over TCU. They made slight work of the Horned Frogs. It was a 75-56 victory. Again, Kansas, they're no slouch coming into the tournament time. They do have 4 losses. They're 19-4 this season. Beating TCU, that's not a very solid victory for them. TCU is 10-13. But hey, Perry Ellis, another big performance, another double-double at that with a 23-10 game. Also, Mason Jr. III coming out with 6 assists. Now, Hunter, that's something that's a key for the Jayhawks' success, in my opinion, going down at the tournament time. Is these guards have to come out and play. We know Kansas is packed with big men that can come out on any given night and give you double-doubles, give all the boards. They can snag they can do all that offensively and defensively. But their guard play just doesn't quite match up with teams like Oklahoma we see with Buddy Hield, or I'll even say my Tar Heels out there. We can even say that. But what do you think about the guard play with Kansas moving into the biggest part of the season?
I think moving into the biggest part of the season, they're going to have to step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're getting close to being there.
And that's never been a slight factor for them. They've always brought young guys in, and it's not the Kentucky syndrome where they have guys that are just going to be there for a year and bounce out. No, these guys are staying there, and they're devoted to being Jayhawks. But moving now out of the Big 12, we're going to move down to some ACC action. We had the number 19 team in the Louisville in the nation, the Louisville Cardinals, who just after an amazing, incredible win over UNC, imposes a self-sanction on themselves. Hunter, what do you got to say about that, man?
I think that took a lot of guts on their part to go ahead and do that before the NCAA stepped in and did it for them.
And it shows a lot. It shows a lot of guts and shows a lot of character. And Rich Pitino, who's a great head coach. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. He's probably going to go down as one of the as a Hall of Fame college coach, solely off of his stats and what he's been able to do with literally nothing when he got to Louisville and just developing that program. But Boston College, they made an easy game out of that one. Like I said, 79-47. Some leaders here for Louisville. You had Lewis again, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. Anuku, who had 13 rebounds. This man gets anything and everything that comes out and off the rim. He's an amazing big man for the Cardinals, and like I said, he was a big factor for why they beat the Tar Heels just a few weeks ago. Moving down now into some more ACC play, we have the UVA Cavaliers heading into play the Pittsburgh Panthers. And it was a 64-50 performance. UVA getting back on track. They're 19-4 now. People in Charlotte were kind of shaky, Hunter, about the ability that Tony Bennett's squad was going to have, if they were falling off, if losing Justin Anderson was really that big of a hit. But I think you got Michael Brogdon, you got Wilkins, you got Dominique Wilkins, not Dominique. I think it's like Damian Wilkins. But they got a lot of young guard play that comes into factor here. And it comes down to Anthony Gill. I know I give him so much slack and so much heckle about his hair, especially with Zach Stanton. But what do you think about UVA's guard play and their big man play coming in late into the ACC or early into the ACC tournament, and especially heading into that big dance?
I think they hit a little rough patch past couple weeks, but now they're starting to step back into it, get their game back.
Starting to get things back on track. And again, they have one of the top point guards in the ACC, no questions about it, in London Parentes, who was 5 from the 9 from the field, 14 points against the Panthers. And then again, Malcolm Brogdon, 6 for 9, 6 from 6 from the free throw line. That's one of the biggest keys for UVA success. When they get to the free throw line, they can really convert and knock down those easy points that they're giving for you. And again, he showed that 6 for 6, 21 points on the day. Anthony Gill, not the greatest performance, but hey, he's doing a big chunk of his work defensively, and that's what you gotta love from him. He went 2 for 7. He was 0 for 2 from the line, 3 rebounds, and again only 4 points. But again, Pittsburgh, they're not the toughest opponent in the ACC by any means. We could agree on that, Hunter.
Yeah.
But it's still it's nice to see the Cavaliers getting back on track, getting these wins, and kind of getting a great basis of unity heading into the ACC tournament and as well the big dance where they got to overcome and beat Michigan State. And speaking of Michigan State, they made slight work of their rival, Michigan. I mean, the Wolverines are 17-7. It's not like they're any slouch by any means. But Sparta, go Sparta, came out 89-73 victory over the Wolverines. Again, Denzel Valentine, this man is incredible. He's not just getting it done offensively, but he just gets it done defensively. 9 rebounds, 8 assists. This cat, what do you think about him, Hunter? Are you set on this man being one of the top and premier guards or small forwards in the country?
I think he's up there. If he's not top 5, he's right there with him.
Yeah, and it's not like he has more than help. I would say with his platoon system in Sparta. He has Brian Forbes. Hey, this cat came out against Michigan with an outstanding shooting performance. He went 10 for 13 from the field, 29 points. And then Denzel Valentine just sitting back, taking the easy ride, and just allowing Brian Forbes to just basically eat his way out through this game. Denzel Valentine, again, was 8 for 13, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. The man is a walking triple-double. We've seen that more than 3-4 times this season. And again, they made slight work of the Wolverines. So I guess it's time to get down to the biggest, probably, discussion of this segment, of this podcast segment, which is number 1 and number 2 teams in the nation falling this late in the season, and not so much this late, but this is a point of the season where one loss can really turn things around, not just in your conference tournament, but again hitting the big dance. The Oklahoma Sooners going in to a tough Kansas State Wildcats arena, and again come away with a tough loss, 80-69 in the favor of the Kansas State Wildcats. Hunter, what do you got to say, man, about the number 1 team in the nation that looks so prized in a sense with their Iron Man, Buddy Hield, falling in a fashion like this? What do you got to say, bro?
I think they just came out and thought this was going to be one of those games where they could just come in, get a little bit of work in, and just walk out with a win.
Exactly.
Kansas State said that wasn't going to happen.
No, exactly, it didn't, and they didn't let it happen. And it's not like Buddy Hield didn't come to play. I mean, this cat is always game ready, and he's one of those dogs that when it's time, when the game is on the line, he wants the ball in his hand and he wants to take the shot. He was 7 for 16, 6 for 6 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 23 points on the day. So he did pretty much virtually everything that he's been doing all season. But it just seems like after that it just kind of drops off. We do see Isaiah Cousins. He came in 5 for 9, 4 for 4 from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 16 points. And then Spangler, the big man from downtown, 10 rebounds, 14 points. I would have liked to see more big man play out of him. The matchups didn't really fall his way. But Wesley Uwandu, this cat, is probably the reason that kind of put Oklahoma out. I mean, he was 7 for 11 on the day, 22 points, 7 assists. And again, Hunter, like I was talking to you earlier about this before we start going live, Brian Brown, Downtown Brown, the freshman, the diaper dandy. It's not like he didn't get – he was only 2 for 8 on the field. I'll say that to our listeners. But he was 5 for 6 from the line, and that was the biggest contributor for Kansas State coming away with this victory. They absolutely just beat the Sooners from the free throw line.
For me, the biggest thing in this game was
up and
the
down
bench play.
Oh, yeah. Now, please elaborate further into that.
Kansas State had 32 points off the bench.
See, and that's the biggest thing.
To Oklahoma's 10 points.
And when you look on the roster, you see D. Wade, but no, it's Dean Wade, the freshman. This cat come in, he had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 17 points. And that's one thing you don't really get out of a Kansas State team like this in the Big 12. Now, nobody's really expecting – they hear teams being deep. They hear the UNCs, the Texas A&Ms, even the LSUs now are getting thrown in the mix about how deep they can play. But we see now Kansas State – 30. You said 32 points
32.
From their bench play. That is an incredible factor, and that's really, like I said, it wasn't just the free throws. It wasn't just that. I mean, just incredible number that they beat them from the line. But no, it was the fact that their bench guys, the second platoon, were coming in and getting the roles done, and to come away and upset the number one team in the land. Now, the team that was supposed to slide in, they knew UNC. We'll move now to the UNC game. UNC versus. Excuse me for a second. Notre Dame. At Notre Dame, now the Fighting Irish, they're no sleeper cell by any means, 16-7, but they're not the best Fighting Irish we've seen in basketball over the past 4 seasons by any, like I said, by any means. With that, they were coming off some pretty good victories this season. No big top 25 victories for the Fighting Irish, but in this game, they've done everything that I said is almost the key to beating UNC. It's got to be big. It's got to be big man play. You got to have excellent big man play, and then again, you got to have guards that come out and knock down the three ball when needed. Now, Marcus Page, we saw, he got hot. He hit 3 threes back-to-back in this game. He finished the day 7 for 12, 21 points. But it just wasn't enough for the rest of the guards. Justin Jackson, 1 for 7, 3 for 3 on the line, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, but only 5 points, Hunter. He's got to be a bigger impact. We saw last year, Justin Jackson was one of these guys that would go out there and give you 14 to 21 on a daily basis. But now he's struggling to not just get shots off, but to even get the ball off the dribble. It seems like these defenders now are playing him more physically, where he has to play outside of his game. He's a very long and lean kind of guy. He's not a 6'4", 6'5" guy that's got muscle to him. He's almost like a 6'4", 6'5" Kevin Durant, a slender giant, I'd say. But nowhere with the shooting ability, as we can see. But Joel Berry, again, not a bad game for him. 3 for 8, 10 points, 5 assists. But the guard play for UNC, heavy Marcus Page. We saw that heavy doses of Marcus Page shooting the ball. Then again, Bryce Johnson and Kennedy Meeks. It was tit for tat down at the bottom. Bryce Johnson, again, another double-double. But Kennedy Meeks, he kind of struggled. He did have a great performance from the field. He was 5 for 6, 12 points. But Bryce Johnson, 6 for 16, Hunter, to be the top 5 team in the world, in the nation, and then have to come into the tournament, you got to have a cleaner game than that. What do you think about that, man?
They look like they're on a little bit of slide right now. The last 2 games have been kind of rough for them. I think they probably need to step that up before coming in tournament time.
And that's true. There's no doubt about that. Notre Dame is a tough opponent. I mean, let's be real. Playing in an environment like that, those guys want to win. They want to upset the number 2 team in the nation. There's no question about that. But you got to get it done. And when it comes to the tournament time, these games like that are going to be the gut check games where they have to make you better, or they'll be out of the tournament quick. So it's gonna be a lot of interesting college basketball here in the next few months, next few days. More great action coming up this week. Today, Sunday, February 7th, we have some good games ahead of us now. SMU taking USF. It's a pretty much blowout. Number 12 Mustangs 46-24 over the USF Bulls. So Iowa State making slight work of Illinois 77-65. Iowa, not Iowa State. Iowa are one of those teams that could be in the contention to slide up in the polls and either take that 3, 2, or 1 spot. We're gonna probably talk about that now in our podcast before we wrap it up. But 1 and 2 is wide open now. Essentially, what do you say about that, Hunter?
Oh yeah, it's definitely open. There are probably 3 teams that could slide up to number 1 at this point.
Easily, and the biggest factor about that is you don't know. I say the committee doesn't really know if they want to keep Oklahoma in the top 3 or not, because we've seen when Oklahoma lost, the committee wasn't afraid to keep them at 1 because they said that the strength of their schedule was valid enough for that. And then we see UNC lost UNC's first 2 losses. They didn't really hurt them that bad as far as the rankings. They kept them still within the top 10. But now it's kind of it gets to the point now where does teams like South Carolina with their big performance over Texas A&M, who's a top 11 team, do they slide in to the top 8, top 7? And then some of these teams like UVA and, of course, teams like even perhaps UNC pushing out a 7 because they want to see can either of these other teams get tested and be durable enough. Like we see Villanova hanging on the cups. Do you think that the committee sees them as a valid number one possible team?
I think you have to after this week. I mean, they just put down a number 11 team in Providence
with an NBA ready guard in Chris Dunn. There's no doubt about that. He had an amazing game for himself, but like I said, they have to really sit back and say, hey, these Wildcats, these guys are playing good basketball, and they're playing at a level that we've seen when they had Scotty Reynolds a few years ago, where they're getting it done with good guards, and they're getting it done with small guards. They're 20-3 now. Providence, the Friars are 19-6. But again, like I said, Reynolds for Villanova Wildcats had 19 points. The Cat, I mean, it gets. I'll say this. I'll put it this way, and this is where I get tongue twisted as well. Melo Trimble's been playing great all season. Diamond Stone's been playing great all season. Rasheed Suleiman has resurrected his career, but I don't think that the number 4 team in Maryland is gonna. I don't think they'll give them that 2 spot. I think they'll hold back on that. I think Villanova will be the clear cut number 1 come Monday morning, February 8th. But I do think that, like I said, Maryland. I think they almost might stay at 4, because it's not like their wins have been terrible or their losses have been terrible, but it's almost like they've just been nitpicky. Just the last 5 minutes, then they get it done, and they just looked a terrible beginning of the game. I don't know. What do you think about this, Hunter?
I think I have them at number 3.
Number 3,
Maryland at number 3 right now.
Mm-hmm. And where do you really drop Oklahoma and UNC after performances like we've seen this weekend with them?
Well, I think UNC might have to take a little slide, dropping 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
I just don't feel too confident in keeping them up there close to number 1 like that.
And we saw how the committee felt about UVA when they dropped those 2 games in a row. It wasn't like they kind of gave them the shaft and put them at 13. They kept them hanging around the top 10. They never bounced out of the top 15 area. It's almost like a respect thing, because UVA, UNC, they're going to tough environments that are supposed to be quote unquote the trap games against teams that are quote unquote not supposed to be very good. But when it comes down to it, the ACC is very competitive basketball, and I've always said this, and I'll say it time after time. It's probably one of the best basketball conferences that college basketball has ever seen. Just because of how deep teams are. You have Syracuse, you have Louisville, you have Pitt, and then you have teams like Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, Miami that can come out on any given night and upset somebody. And that's the interesting thing about it. So Notre Dame upsetting UNC, I think it's an upset, but it's also a setback. Like, the ACC is real. Like, these cats can come out here and ball.
There's not an easy game in the ACC right now.
And you got to think, even with Jim Boeheim having his suspension with Syracuse, those guys are still winning games without him. And you bring him back, and they're still looking good. So the ACC, moving into the ACC tournament, I think UNC will – it's going to be a tough route for them. But I think they're going to finish the season out locked in, the number 1 ACC seed. But the 2 spot is wide open. We see Louisville. They're making noise at the 2 spot in the ACC. And then you got teams like Duke and UVA, who are traditionally powerhouses in the last 3 seasons, and Duke's sitting at like 6. They're sitting at 6 now, which is not a traditional thing that they see in Durham. So I definitely know for a fact that the tournament this season is definitely going to be one crazy ride. I don't know. Last season's tournament was Notre Dame made a tremendous amount of noise, so this year is definitely going to be one crazy college basketball season. It's called March Madness for a reason, isn't that right?
Oh, it's nothing but madness.
So I think that's how we're going to wrap up our podcast today. Sorry if we did go over the time limit. We wrapped this show up at about 20 minutes. So, again, I told you earlier it would be 13 to 15. So, my fault again, listeners. But, again, I'm Tony Morris Cousins. Thank you for listening to the College Basketball Rundown. And today, this is my guest,
Hunter Richardson.
And we're out.